The oncoming legion of zombies are fast approaching. Hordes of the undead are ready to strike, lashing out with claw and talon as mothers hold their children in terror. All is bleak, hopeless, and wrought with decay. But hark, what's that in the skies? A savior parts the clouds with strands of glistening light, coloring their wings with glory. An angel with holy blade in hand, ready to smite any and all foe who stand in her way. I counterspell. Wait, what? Yeah, I counter your spell. Also, I get to draw a card after. Ah, son of a bitch. Hello! So it's finally time for the second one of these bad boys. I don't think I really got around to talking about this series much, but real quick, I wanted to fill everybody in. With every episode, I'll be breaking down the color pie slice by slice. Hopefully I'll be able to get to things like dual colors or even tricolors eventually. But for now, we're talking about the first letter in the spectrum, our first sip of this deranged alphabet soup, the W in Wooburg. That's right, everybody's favorite color, white. What's that? What do you mean most people don't like white? No card draw. But I built like this $200 Atomic deck. Still not good? Well, that's stupid. I'm doing the video anyway. To most people, white mana is the bland wonder bread of the Magic color pie. It's alright when you have other stuff with it, but by itself, not ideal. Let's say you're making a sandwich. White mana is good by itself, but throw on some good red mana salami, and maybe some good green mana greens, and maybe some blue. Whatever it is, it'll probably taste better with white in the mix. See, white's entire thing is to try and have a card that can solve every problem, and to its credit, it sure does have stuff like that. But there's a huge problem when you compare it to other colors. Black and red can get rid of creatures easily, so can white too, but usually it comes with either high cost, ways for the enemy to circumvent the problem, sometimes you have prerequisites to make the card fully pay off. It feels bad trying to wait for 3 white mana when you could just pay a red. What about creatures? Sure, white has a bunch of huge creatures that are sometimes a big threat, or numerous of threat is green. But if I'm perfectly honest, aside from angels, there's not many interesting white creatures that see stuff like tribal support, or have unique mechanics associated with them. Knights are bland, there's 9 mono white Soltari creatures out of the 10 printed, and Kifkin look like a hobbit melted in the sun. Blue on paper plays a lot like white, but the key difference is that blue's use of counter magic and tricks can usually control an out-tempo white. Mostly because blue can draw cards at the same time as dealing with whites. Meanwhile, white tends to struggle to dig deep naturally into its deck. But just remember, the people who play blue and white are narcs. Gosh, white has so many flaws, it's like somebody could do an entire video about it. For now, my goal in this video is simple. Not only am I going to explain white, but find out why it feels bad to play. Despite everything I've said so far, white is not that bad a color, but I do have to admit it has its inherent flaws. But then again, every color does. So let's start with a simple outline of reasons that are so big you're better off playing any other color. It can't draw cards easily. That's it, thanks for watching. This video was sponsored by Channel Fireball and Raid Shadow. Okay, but seriously. First let's go over the color philosophy of white to get a better understanding of it, and hopefully get rid of some misconceptions about it. White is flavorfully considered the lawful good color, where its virtues are centered on protecting the weak and giving strength to everyone. It's rarely about doing something bold and dumb like attacking with all of your creatures and being open to getting hit on the crackback, even when the game gives you something like Exalted, an ability that makes you want to swing in blindly with a single creature, and makes it stronger depending on how much backup you have, so you're not really alone. White is considered to be virtuous and one of the holy powers, since its strong images with angels stuck around since Alpha. Not a lot of people know this, but the first set actually had 2 angel cards printed, Sarah Angel and Uftin Troll. Legality-wise, they're not really an angel, but they are to me. White also represents the power of community within regular, ordinary people. Knights, soldiers, regular old humans. All of these are pushed in white because they're drawn to each other and get off stronger working as a unit. There's a power in the mundane, and White's core value really shows it. White is pro-union, no matter what you might say. It's all about seizing the means of token production. Jokes aside, the idea of community is something I really like in White. It's not something you see in any of the other colors, and it just feels really good when all of your cards just work together. Despite the virtuous nature of White, I think it's also important to say, despite it all, you can have a white mana antagonist in a set, just like how you can have a black mana protagonist. Color theory, when it comes to morality, doesn't work on a binary. It's more of a spectrum. Ideologically, none of the colors are binary in value. Even if red is considered reckless, for example, there's always compassion and precision it could have. Ha! With all this talk about spectrums and binaries, is this still a Magic video? Or am I doing a gender studies final? Trans rights, no turfs on Gruul turf. I'm just gonna go and make that one crystal clear. Anyway, there's such a thing as being too overzealous or too protective, to the point of it being a problem. For example, I'd love to see a Magic the Gathering villain who's on a quest to make no one feel pain, or is trying to remove any cognitive feeling from a person. The machine orthodoxy, the white-colored antagonists of a plane named Phyrexia, filled with insane murder robots. It's a good vacation spot, by the way. Literally has a cultish dogma and forcibly converts people to their beliefs by tearing apart their body and mind. That's that good panic-inducing shit. All that aside, if you value your friends and think doing things that are true to a common goal are important, white might be the color for you. But going back to game feel, what exactly makes white feel so lackluster? After going back and doing a bunch of research, on Twitter, on Discord servers, on every single article I could find talking about the subject, I find it all circles back to one common theme. White as a color doesn't play as fast as the rest, because it doesn't have card draw. Now, I've heard that excuse way too many times to fully buy it. I feel like there's something more to it, so I invited somebody onto the show to hopefully help us.
My name's Ryan Gomez. I'm the host of Magic Arcanum on YouTube, where we talk about the stories behind the card. So I started playing around 1997, I think was the year, and I kind of was on and off with it. So usually I say for the last 20 plus years. My very first deck I ever had, I remember I walked into the game store and I was like, all my friends are playing Magic. I don't have my own cards yet. What can you sell me? And the guy reaches behind the counter. He's like, I only got 2 decks left because this game is insane. Here's your choice. You can have this Exodus pre-constructed deck. It's red and white. It's called White Heat, and it makes Pegasus tokens, which were like back then just 1/1 flyers, and it used like the buyback mechanic, and there was some enchantment that would let you sacrifice lands to like turn them into Pegasus tokens. And I was like, done, sold, I'll take it. And from there, I just kind of kept adding cards to it. I remember I eventually ended up being just mono white, and I was fascinated by like Tundra Wolves. Like, he's got first strike, man. It's a 1/1 for 1, but it has an ability. Turn 1, Plains, Windmill Slam, Tundra Wolves, suck it. How could I lose? And then a couple turns later, I get Crash of Rhinos coming back at me. So I don't know. I think there's a lot we can learn from looking at the past, where white did have an identity with, aggressive flyers and kind of tricky tax effect type stuff on just random creatures that you wouldn't expect, and having good 1 and 2 mana cost cards that can get in there that are still useful at later points in the game. White should be able to answer any other color as long as it can't draw those answers, and as long as you can figure out which answers you need, then you don't have to draw them all. They'll just be in your opening 7. can white do better with stronger answers? Well, maybe, but you still do need your own kind of proactive game plan, right? Answers are good, but threats are always better. I posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago, I jokingly said, hey guys, I fixed white. And I posted basically a white version of Pelt Collector and a white version of Knight of the Ebon Legion, because like those are two of the best one drops in Standard right now, but they're in the wrong colors completely. And if you just tweaked them a little bit, they would both fit in white, and that would give them like two awesome haymaker turn one plays that would set white, you know, on a path where it could actually win a game.
Actually, crazy interesting. The idea that like there's a lot of good white cards that are not white.
White is all about rules, right? And like the whole, either it's symmetrical, I can't have my graveyard, you can't, or let's destroy all creatures, whatever. But if we consider white to be the color of rules, then I think that that in itself is a reason a lot of players maybe don't want to touch it, because they come to Magic to break rules and they want to get away from the rules at school and work and, you know, home and everything, and they want to come in here and do crazy wacky stuff and be the one with the answers that is blue, or they want to let off some steam and play red, or they want to show how tough they really are after getting beaten down at the office all day, so they grab some big green fatties. No one ever has like a day at work where they're like, man, I had so much freedom today. I need to go enforce some rules and, you know, bring things back into balance. It's so that, I don't know, I think that's another part of white's identity. But I think that maybe subconsciously or on some other level, players do kind of feel like, white is a little bit too uptight and I'm too cool to play white. So I'm just not gonna.
Thank you so very much, Ryan. And now let's break down some of the stuff we talked about. The major takeaway I was able to get from my conversation with Ryan is the idea that white likes to play honest. Honesty really holds true with white cards. When you see somebody playing white, you have a very different list of expectations compared to red or black, even if subconsciously it's just another game of Magic. White has a lot of synergies displayed on its arms. It's like a bad tattoo you got when you were 16. It's hard to miss. These things are part of White's plan. Equipment, enchantments, overall permanence on the field. It creates this distinct separation between somebody with a spell-slinging playstyle, where they rarely have things on the field, and someone playing white, where what you see is what you get. And that digs into its honesty. To me personally, it's the key thing that separates it from other colors, because the most powerful things white do stay as a unit. All That Glitters is a wonderful example of this, because it's devastating if you have a bunch of enchantments or artifacts on the field, a thing that white explicitly tries to make use of. Fuck the Great Henge, fuck Magic Mirror, fuck even Embercleave. The most fun artifact of Eldraine was a goddamn cookie, and I will die on this hill, all because of how well it paired with All That Glitters. This glorified biscuit and a white enchantment playstyle was the most memorable part of Eldraine for me, because it felt good to be able to have a deck that rewarded me for doing what white did best. The feeling of swinging in with a 26-26 cookie is so unique. I implore anyone to try this deck list I personally ran through all of Eldraine. I'll link it in the description below for anybody who wants to play with a giant cookie that has evasion. I should mention, when I say evasion, for the ones unfamiliar, I mean a way that a creature could get around threats, usually in the form of a static keyword ability on the card, and I'm glad to say, white loves to use these things. While things like vigilance and flying seem underwhelming, when everything has it on your field, it's a huge problem. White also has a tendency to generate creatures easy with stuff on the field, with little creature factories, so it's not crazy to see a white deck get out of hand real quick with all the tokens it could generate that could fly over. Just take a look at that, you have an entire army at your disposal now. And I can't mention White's keyword abilities without mentioning the most popular one and probably the most printed, Lifelink. Lifelink makes it so that when a creature deals damage, you get that much life back. So life gain is kinda a tricky thing. Half of people who play Magic will say life gain is cool and fun, while the rest say it's a waste of time. But why would anyone say something like that? Because they're right. When you have cards with life gain, they usually fall into one of two camps. One being very easy to cast, so you could probably just sub in another color so you don't have to run exclusively white, or it costs way too much and does way too little for you. Instead, with life gain, it's usually best to use the healing itself to make stuff happen, rather than just get your total higher. Life gain can make triggers for days. Life gain is the fuel to the engine that is your deck. Healing to an I win point can suck even if it feels good to watch your life points shoot up to 100 or something. But I will say, god fucking damn does it feel good when it happens. So, where I sit on the camp of life gain is that I think life gain is phenomenally fun, even if you're not trying to win off it. I think if you want to run life gain, go for it. If you're adamant about running life gain, just make sure that your deck plays to its strengths. In the last episode, I also mentioned something I think needs a bit more explanation. Life in Magic is less a score and more a resource. If you win with 1 life, it's the same as winning with 100. It's a big key reason why life gain is kind of frowned upon. So in most formats, you only begin with 20 life. You have a relatively low amount that you could actually use, so you have to be careful with spending. That's why black and white makes such a wonderful combination. You could spend life and get it back too. But now there's a problem in other formats where you start with 40 life instead. What ends up happening is you just don't have a reason to run life gain anymore because your starting life total is so high. This holds true of cards that benefit off a high life total, but then again, your starting life total is enough to activate them. Felidar Sovereign over here could win you the game turn 1 if you somehow get it out and no one touches you. Despite everything, the argument that life gain is useless is just fueled by different formats. Life gain is stronger in 20 health formats than 40 life formats, just due to the nature of the game. To me, I personally just love life gain, because at times you just get so much life compared to the damage people can deal to you. It makes you feel strong. There's something to be said about white and all its honesty and reputation as the worst color. White still holds up extremely strong against all the other colors despite the lack of card draw or surprise factor or all the other negative stigmas. And to me, that's grounds for respect and looking deeper into some of the cool cards white has. I'd be lying if I said white was not a build-around color compared to something like green, where most of the colors just click, just by being so similar. When you make a good white deck with a focus on everything it wants to do, it's suddenly something worth looking out for, even if it doesn't have any natural card. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. White can draw cards. It might struggle with it, but it can still draw cards. It can cantrip just like all the other colors. It can cycle lands too if they're in the format. The argument that it can't draw cards holds no water when you have a deck with synergies for your playstyle. If you're playing a lot of tokens, Mentor of the Meek gives you a card for all your low-power creatures that enter the field, and Skull Clamp works in any color that looks to make a bunch of low-power creatures and still be aggressive. If you're playing a lot of artifacts, most artifacts themselves already give you cards, so stuff like SRAM give you payoffs for 3 different white cycles. Fucking SRAM! Enchantments are the same thing. Not to mention tons of white cards work as tutors for answers, so if you balance out your deck properly, you can have a good chance of getting a card that gives you something you need for any situation.
Objection!
Oh, really, Cozy? White might be the color of answers, but it can't answer everything. A standard deck only has 60 cards in it, and a good amount of that is lands. You have a sideboard in standard. You have 100 cards in commander. Even in a best of 1 match, the stigma that white is bad just comes from people not realizing its playstyle is different from what they're used to. Not everything has to be on a sorcery or flashed in on the enemy's turn. Newsflash, dick nips! All the colors are unique! What's going on? There's so much shit going on! Despite it all, and I hate to admit this, but White's reputation as the color of answers gets overshadowed way too easy with how little love and support its archetypes get. And it could really suck to put so much work and effort into a deck just to make sure you can get exactly what you want and still do good, and then being locked into a small corner with your playstyle. But really, that's part of the fun, right? No one could be everything, no matter how hard they try. Even if you have one color or 5, sometimes it's important to admit the faults in your deck and just work to improve them. So don't feel guilty when you add card draw engines into your mono white deck, or yet another equipment card, just so you could make sure you could get what you need. Have fun with it. I guess all I really have to say is, white's a unique and valuable color, and shouldn't be pushed around just because it seems to struggle to get cards, or maybe it's not doing so well in the current standard rotation. Hell, it's been doing really well so far in Theros, and mono white seems to be doing exceptionally well in Pioneer. White can be really fun with life gain, or utility generation, or Pegasus generation, and newer players see white cards and feel like they're simple and interesting to play. Personally, I feel like board wipes are some of the best parts of Magic, and that's one of the most white mana things in the game, a mass destruction spell. To wrap this up, I tap for white and play Peace of Mind. Thanks for watching. Oh, and a very special thanks to Ryan Gomez. You got anything else to say?
Well, I'm always inviting people to come see Magic Arcanum. The YouTube channel has been growing. My best friend Nicole helps me with every episode, and together we have been doing our best to share the stories behind the cards. We just did a great episode on the history of gods in Magic, which I had a lot of fun writing and researching, and kind of get an understanding of where this card type has come from and where it's going over the last 20 years.
About that, well, as it turns out, this video has been in production for basically a year at this point. So no, that's not the most recent video they've done. You should check out their 2 most recent videos though. One is on Nissa, which is the mono-green planeswalker of the Gatewatch, and the other one is actually also about the Pharisian gods, just ranking them by lore, which I'm going to check out right now.
But if there's ever something you want to see or learn more about, come on to our YouTube channel, drop us a comment, or hit us up on Twitter at Magic Arcanum. We love talking with our fans, and like I said, I've been doing this for 20 odd years now, and I feel like I'm just getting started because this game is so big and there's so much to do, and I hope I get to keep doing it for another 20.
You heard the man, so make sure you check out Magic Arcanum, and also while you're at it, subscribe to this channel and share it around if you actually like the stuff I make. I also got a Twitter and a Discord link down below, so you could use those to keep up with channel updates and see what I have planned. I might start streaming again soon, so you too can see I have no idea what I'm doing. Alright, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.